Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So, hi again. This is the second session we are doing of this Shorts and Talks. It's a platform we're trying to create to highlight ourselves as Kenyans and what we are doing. My name is Esther Siombaine. I'm a student here currently at the National Film and Television School, taking the Masters in Creative Business course. And we are being exposed or have been exposed to the creative industries, from the publishing to the theater, to the TV and film, to the gaming, the business models, global business models. And I think for me, having worked previously as a nonprofit in Kenya, what I was doing there before, this is what I really, really wanted to know. And I'm happy that we demystified all this. And I think that's a part of the skills that we need to have, how to negotiate around business to be able to do better. So today we'll have two filmmakers who we've not featured before, we've never seen, because it's part of the initiative. We highlight our filmmakers, get to know about them, Naomi and Biko. And I think we'll start by having our co-host introduce himself, Joe, and then we can come back to our filmmakers and have a good discussion. Thank you so much for joining us. Joe.
Hello everybody. My name's Joseph, Joe. I'm doing the film curation and film programming degree at the NFTS. I'll keep it very, very short because we've only got limited time and Naomi and Biko are far more interesting than I am. So let's hear from our fantastic guests this week. Why don't we start with Naomi, and maybe she could introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what she is doing.
Right. Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you, Esther and Joe, for having us. My name is Naomi Mboro. I'm a Kenyan actor, female actor, and film producer, TV and film producer. I don't know, Joe, you said I mentioned what I do as well, what I've done, rather. I've produced a couple of things. I've done a short film, Napunyi, which is what I think majorly we will be discussing today, because that's the project that we're on with Biko. We shot it as a proof of concept for a feature film. So it is a short film, but also a proof of concept. I have done a feature film called Sincerely Daisy, but it's on Netflix Africa. I don't think we've distributed it worldwide. I've done a TV show, an online, sort of like a TV show, online show, another short film that we're about to release, and that's just on the producing side. As an actor, I'm on a major TV show here in Kenya. It's called Kina. It's on DSTV Maisha Magic, a platform that is big in Africa now. That's briefly who I am. I studied business and decided to do business in the film industry. That's Naomi Mboro.
Thank you, Naomi. That's really nice. And Biko, we can hear from you.
Thank you very much, Joseph and Esther, and also Naomi, for your time. I think, Esther, we know each other. We've worked together a little bit. And so you know another side of me, which is, just archiving. So when we were just having a little bit of introduction before the live began, I heard Joseph talk about archiving, using archival footage, to create film and all that. And I was just thinking, wow, I think I'm in the right platform, because that's an art I've not seen here. And I've been doing it certainly for around 7 years now, just archiving art and all that. So pretty much a lot of footage, especially when it comes to people, filmmakers, feature filmmakers that will want to explore the creative history of the creative processes. Now, my name is Lungashi Biko Nyongesa. Most people know me as Biko Nyongesa. And that's why when it comes to branding myself for the film, it's L Biko Nyongesa, because Lungashi gives people a lot of trouble. Now, I'm a film director. I'm a film director, actor, creator. And when I call myself creator, being in a religious country, we have a lot of fights with people, but no, I create film concepts. like the ones the ones we are about to study today. Most of my work as a film director, I've always created it, either written it, but mostly directed it and also acted in it. I've done a couple of projects as an actor. I've made appearances in Sense8, that is 2014 season 1. And then recently in another, I made an appearance in another Netflix TVS. It's called Country Queen. And as a film director, I've directed Get Some Money 2016, 2017. I've worked on Napunyi with the amazing Naomi Mburu here, who was my producer. And most recently, I've also worked on another feature film that's on Mnet Maisha Magics called When the Gods Argue. And still couple of projects that we are working on still on concept development. And when I see Easter and Joseph putting this together, I'm happy because now it means most of the projects that we have now, we are going to discuss it at international level. For me today, that kind of collaboration and more specifically distribution of the films has been a very, very major problem. Just we make a film, yes, but how do we then get it out there? So I'll be more interested in today's discussion with that after we collaborate, and then how do we get it there? And great jobs you guys are doing there over there in the UK. Bless.
I mean, I'm so excited because it was for me when I came to this school, I was like an invisible person. I keep saying, yes, we have talent in Kenya, we have filmmakers, we have actors, we have all these people, but nobody could, when we're asked, who are your famous directors, who are your actors? You actually start to wonder, okay, yes, Lupita is, but then Lupita is also not very well known, here as a Kenyan, because people think she's also a Mexican. So in terms of a brand, in terms of these things, we need to have famous directors, we need to have famous actors, and it helps in our projects get well-resourced projects, because that's how the audience follows this project. I mean, these projects, and that's how good business is done. So for me, the little I can do, in the little ways I can do to help us grow and have a bigger bang kind of, effect around, give our presence also in these spaces, the better for us. And I was told, you guys, that we need to make a Squid Game. That's the only way we'll be known. So we better start thinking of those killer shows. There is no other way of doing it. We have to make a Squid Game somehow. So anyway, I think for me, I always like asking this question, how did you guys start? How did you get into the industry? And maybe can have a brief intro, the journey, because people find themselves in different ways getting into this industry. And I think it's also a way of inspiring people, because I think this is not, the way I've seen even people here, it's not a domain for just specific people. People have stories to tell. And there's a way of collaborating, and people tell stories in different ways. And the diversity of stories, the more you get diversity of stories told, the better it is. So you can start with Naomi, and then Biko, we can take it from there.
Thank you, Easter. I sort of began acting when I was very young. So I used to train a lot when I was a child. And so when I finished my high school, I immediately started joining theater, right? Doing a lot of travel. So there's something we call traveling theater in Kenya, whereby we do set books and we visit different kind of high schools as we perform those books to them. So you get a whole book with a whole team, I say a team of 20 or 15, you're cramming the book and now you're performing it. But then again, that didn't satisfy me. I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. So as I was joining campus, I joined a very popular TV show in Kenya. I auditioned for one. It's called Tahidi High School. And so I joined and I was like, this is nice. This is very good. This is what I want. I want to be on TV. I want to do films. I want to do all those things. But then again, after acting for a while, I was like, no, it's not enough for me. I want to do more. And so I started learning. I met Biko at that point. I actually met Biko, and he was studying his undergraduate. You were not studying your master's. I think you were doing your undergrad in film and theater technology. And I was like, you know what? I wanted to study that, but because I'm studying business, can I be buying you food and then you teach me? And so I used to visit him together with his schoolmates, and they would teach me a lot of film and theater, and I would be like, okay, so give me all the notes, give me all your notes. It was a very nice period. I only just got to train about film and producing last year and last year but one, right? I got into a school called Some Fine Day Picks, just trained a little bit because I was like, okay, I can't just operate from head knowledge and, you know, just a bit of experience. I need to actually study that. So I only just studied that a few years ago. So yeah, I joined Biko. He directed the first film that I ever was on as an actor. I was an actor in his film, and I really liked what they were doing. It was very fascinating because these are young people, probably my age, and they're doing everything that I want to do. And so I really wanted to stay in his corner. I got into his good books, made him my friend. I was like, "You're not leaving me. We're gonna do films together." And he was gracious and kind enough to guide me and hold my hand just a little bit. And a few years down the line now, I started producing, and the only director I could think about was Biko. He had 3 stories that he wanted to do, and he pitched 2. The first 2 I didn't like. The third one, by the time he was finishing his log line, I was like, you know what, let's do that film, that one. Don't even tell me the rest of the story. Go give me the script. You know, let's do it. And that's how we began our journey to work together. That's how I began in the industry as an actor and as a producer. So I began as an actor because I've been performing since I was very young. But then again, I wanted something more out of it. I wanted to be a producer. I wanted to also rope in everyone into what this film thing is all about, what TV is all about, what theater is all about. And so the only way I could think of then was to produce things. And that's how I began as a producer.
Wow, that's interesting. Always nice to hear such stories. Biko, how did you get into this as well?
For me, it goes sometimes back. First of all, I come from a family with a background of filmmaking. So my dad was a film producer back then in the day, but I think he only produced a film or 2, and he'd worked in media and all that. So, and also my mom owned a camera growing up. So maybe this was triggered from that. And naturally, I'm a storyteller. So these things were just coming together. My mom owning a camera, Kodak camera, my dad over here being a film producer, and also I think a photographer with the VOK. So when I came to my consciousness, I remembered my dad, when I gained my full human conscious, you know, and stopped seeing things as a child. My dad made, you know, just one day screened a film for us. A film he'd made. It's called The Married Bachelor, which was made back in 1994. And I think that's where it all came together for me. I think I was in high school then or something like that. And that's when it all came together for me. So I began developing a strong interest towards film. All along, I was an arty kid. But then, so fast forward, KU offers the first theater and film degree in Kenya. And I am among the second batch. And my journey towards filmmaking is just sealed with that action. So I studied for it, had made a few 2-3 short films. I think, as Naomi says, the first film where we met, where she was acting, was also my first feature film. Not short though, but first feature film. So from there, I think it was just an upward trajectory, being involved in film business, acting in it. I was either acting or directing a film, either a short film or a feature film. And, you know, it's been so many years. If I begin to say how the journey has been teat by teat, I think it'll take up the whole life. But I was fortunate enough to study the subject, come from a background of filmmaking, where it was introduced to me through its screening of it in a living room, simple as that. And ever since then, yeah, it's just been giving good energy, meeting great people, great producers like Naomi Mburu. I think Naomi Mburu is one of the greatest producers that I've met. Even though she was producing that film for the first time, I think she did amazingly well. She was even telling me that it's her first time producing the film. I was like, no. I think then you've been learning well as an actor, seeing what other people are doing. So it was one of the best experiences, especially making Napuni, which we are still actively pitching around because we want to make it a feature. still a short film of 7 minutes. So basically that was just been my journey in filmmaking. And wow, here I am. Because of that, because of the bold steps that we took into film, here I am again. Here we are meeting new people, possibly who will be working again together, and they become part of our story. Yep.
Definitely. Joe, maybe you can also share. I've never asked you about how you got into this as well. Maybe it's a nice time to ask you as well.
You don't want to hear about how I got into it, but it's kind of similar to Biko, but obviously my family were not filmmakers. I'm so envious of that. But yeah, no, just as I'm sure all of us listening to this, if we have an interest in, am I full screen? I don't know if I even am full screen.
No, you're good. Yeah.
Oh, I'm good. Okay, it looks like you are. You're taking up the frame, but at least on my side. So anyone that's listening to this, you probably had that infection when you were a child watching film and wanting to just become a part of it. Biko, when you were saying about your dad being a film director and your mom being on the camera, that just sounds beautiful, and I would love to see the Married Bachelor, or I would love to see that. That then goes into a whole other conversation about archiving and restoring Kenyan films and how important it is to make sure we have a record of that, because that's important. Can I also ask about the differences that you feel, Biko, in particular from your father's generation and the generation before you, and now you, Naomi, and the whole new school of filmmakers in your generation? What differences do you feel, and what kind of maybe different pressures that you have on your shoulders to tell different stories, perhaps?
Okay, maybe I'll go first. There are a lot of differences. First of all, in terms of even distribution, the opportunities that are there, and also how we learn the skill right now. You see, during my father's time, they had no film schools. They actually, all they had was journalism schools, okay? And I remember I was talking to him, and I think he went to Kenya Institute of Mass Communication, which back then, when you cleared school, you'd directly be either have an opportunity to be employed in a government institution that dealt with communication, which was Kenya, Voice of Kenya, or now Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, the Department of Film Services, etc. And maybe just to the specific conversation I was discussing with him about what really made him not successful with their film, because they were not successful. That has to be acknowledged. Gave them a lot of trouble. It was distribution. It was getting the mode of distribution back then. They had to make a film out of pocket. There are no fundings, out of pocket, and then work around each and every process and ensure that they've sold the film to whoever they've sold to, either through screening or I don't know, whatever, and make back the money, which did not happen with them. Looking at it right now, there are so many opportunities to, even distribute your film, whether for free or not for free. You can put it on YouTube, you can put it on, you can cut it into pieces and put it on your TikTok. There are so many avenues for distribution. It all just goes into your approach. I'm also, maybe what I did say, I'm also a lecturer at the KCA University teaching film production, and also Africa Film Talent Television Institute teaching acting and film production. And I just look at it as a way of me as a filmmaker who's been through it to teach the younger generation what not to do or what to do in this particular time. For them, they didn't have that chance. They didn't have that chance. That was nowhere. They wouldn't, as a filmmaker, they wouldn't have a chance maybe to be a lecturer at a university that was teaching film, because the course was not there. Fast forward, I was the second batch of the degree intake at KU. And this was 2010. He made his film in 1994. Like a difference of over 10 or so years. So I see right now the biggest difference, first of all, are the opportunities that are there that they didn't have. But maybe for them, they were more willing to collaborate on, out of pocket than it is right now. Even though there are still collaborations happening right now, but I've since found some collaborations difficult. Maybe I'll also further this conversation with him and know how did they, because from his stories, the people he made the film with were, almost all of them were his friends, and everybody was coming through, in his own small or big way. But I can't really fault that. All I can say is the opportunities that were there then, that weren't there then, are there now. And those that are here now, most of them were not there then. That would be the major difference for me. Yeah.
Naomi, you want to jump in and add something?
Actually, just wanted to reiterate that it's majorly the major difference between films back then and now is especially on the distribution front. But again, we have to acknowledge then people used to be cinema goers a lot. People would screen films from morning till evening, and they'd have people every single day to watch. But currently, I don't think the cinema scene in Kenya is as huge, because merely because there's a lot of distribution platforms, like digital migration has done a lot of standardization. So you can watch a film on Netflix and you'd be like, why do I need to watch in the cinemas? The only time that people go to the cinemas is when there's a huge film premiere and like they can watch that, and then there's a cinema run, and you're pretty sure you can't catch this film up until maybe 2-3 years of its distribution and festival run and everything. Then you're able to say maybe they will bring it to a VOD platform. But I can say that most of our cinemas here in Kenya, they're not as big as back. The cinema culture then was really huge. Our parents really used to rally themselves and go and watch films, right? And so that's one of the major differences. And of course, what Biko has said, I don't need to repeat that. I think also that back then, film and TV was frowned upon by everybody. Be like, really, can you get a real job? It's not that it's not frowned upon even now. It's just that back then it was a lot more. The frowning was a lot more. If you told your parents that, or I'm assuming if my dad ever told his parents, my grandpa, that I want to do film, he'd be like, no, just, you know what, let me take you to school. Do you want a counselor? Do you want to speak to someone? Because that is not a job. But now they're becoming more open to us having the filmmaking as a career, right? They're looking at you and they're like, oh, could actually make something out of this, And so we're now the culture has accepted for us to do film, and people are open to watching what you do. So that's the major difference between our parents' generation and our generation.
Yeah, and I think I would also want to add that I'm not really sure, like, what Biko said, you can find those old films, previous filmmakers, the older generation. Is it easy to find them, Biko? I mean, to see that kind of work they were doing then? I don't think there are many platforms you can see that, because I think there's also lack of, there must be a disconnect between the new filmmakers and the old ones as well.
Yes and no. Yes, because I've not seen many of those, especially the 90s film, because there are really a number of great filmmakers of Kenyan descent from especially the 90s, because the 90s is when Kenyans started really making big films, like Wanjiru Kinyanjui, with the Battle of the Sacred Tree, I'm forgetting her name, which is a shame because she was my teacher. Yes. Yeah, coming in with films like Saikati, which were really, really, really big films. And that's when Kenya started collaborations on international level, because the Battle of Sacred Tree was made by Wanjiru after, I think, either as a result of her studies in Germany or something. And also Mungai, Saikati also was a big collaboration. So 90s was big for Kenya. And the films, I've been lucky to watch a few of them, because these and Mungai, Wanjiru were my teachers. And here there is Nyongesa Yadi, who was the producer of the film, is my producer of the film. The Married Bachelor is my dad, so I can watch it in the living room. But other than that, I've not been able to watch commercially or on a commercial platform a film from Kenya, a film from Kenya from the 90s per se. 2000s, I've seen something that has gotten onto Netflix right now. So it means maybe somebody somewhere is working. Somebody somewhere has started to think and picking up this conversation that are thinking and asking these questions. Where are these films by these guys, and can we watch them somewhere? So there are some that you can get from Netflix, and I've seen only one. Others from the rest, I think you just have to know the filmmaker personally. If you know the filmmaker personally, then you'd be able to watch that film. So that's my yes, you can get them if you know the filmmaker personally. If you know Wanjiru, maybe you can sit with Wanjiru and she'd screen that film for you. If you don't know her, then too bad, you'll never get to watch that film until somebody comes in and maybe gives it a platform. So the films are there, yes, but access. And it's not only the films from the 90s or these oldies, a lot of films from Kenya. Distribution, accessing those films is very difficult. People make films, but they become desktop, they thrive in desktop festivals other than public screening. So yeah, I'd answer that question that way. Yeah.
I won't try and get into that because it's a whole different topic, and we'll even lose sight of you guys as what you're doing, the production process, and I think that is what you want to focus on. And we can start with how do you develop idea, what inspires you when you're working on films. We can start with Naomi, Viko, whoever is ready to start.
Maybe because I'm the one who's created most ideas here. Maybe I can say, first of all, I'm inspired by my environment. And if and when you get a chance to watch most of my films, you'll begin to see that there's a pattern for, just something very local about the film, which is usually the language, number one. Almost all of my films are made in the local language, which is Sheng. Secondly, the setup. The setup is usually very familiar to the Kenyan context. So I'm inspired with the environment, with the stories that I experience in the day-to-day. For example, Napunyi, we had a very famous boxer in Kenya who was called Robert Wangila, but his uncle, who was a boxer, gave him the name Napunyi. And we tried following up that film on that front, but it became very difficult in terms of, even acquiring the rights or accessing people for information, just about the individual life of this particular person. But then again, we thought, if this would become the name of a girl, and, locally here, how the name sounds is very abusive. And I thought, why would we use this setting to, highlight the sexual assault, sexual violence, sexual abuse that goes on here? So if you watch the film tackles that. And because the young lady is called Napunyi, and, the bullies around his hood call her Punyi. And Punyi actually in the local language, in the Sheng language here, translates to a lady's private parts. So that's what they call her. They call her Punyi instead of calling her Napunyi. So she decides to, pick up boxing and defend herself against these bullies who also happen to be boxers. And by accident, because she gets involved in street boxing, she gets to fight them in the ring and win. So it is, I think Naomi would back me up and say that around here, there's some things called bays, and Shobaina will also back me here. There are things called bays. And I think it's always a nightmare for a lady to pass Karibuna bays, just pass where a group of men are seated. You definitely know the amount of catcalling that will go on there. You always almost know the end results of just passing by a base. So, and that's what Napunyi is all about. So my stories are inspired by real situations that happen here. And how can we then turn them up creatively to give out these messages? That's what inspires me, just my local environment. And by by virtue of that, you find that it reflects a lot of people get to associate with that film in one way or another, either as a bully or as the person who's being harassed. For example, for the case of Napunyi. So local stories, my language, my culture, our culture, that's what really inspires me to create whatever I create. Yeah.
Great. Naomi?
I think one of the things that really drew me to the story Napunyi is that it's based on a true life events, which is that's where I'm inclined towards. I like biopics, I like biography films, or films that have been inspired by true events. And so when I see a story that is really touching, the first thing that I think about is that, can we make this story into a film? Will this person agree? I want to tell, there's a story I'm writing about. I'm doing a biopic on my mom, and it's a very interesting story. When I first pitched it to one of the writers, I'm not a writer, I'm not a good writer, but when I first pitched it to one of the writers, the head writers that I want to work on it, they cried. They were like, I don't have the emotional capability to do it now, but I also feel like we need to give it a bit more time for it to grow. So what inspires me, it's the lives of people, whether underdogs or people who are popular or people whose stories we would probably never ever get to hear, right? So I like to listen to such stories, and they inspire me to create something that brings change in society. There's a film that I'm also trying to do. It's about the how you get into Kenya's hospitals and you're probably not able to get out if you don't have the money to pay for anything, whether you have insurance or not. You probably wouldn't be able to get out, especially if you're admitted. So I draw my inspiration from such things. I really like to lean onto the stories that are actually true events. That's where I draw my inspiration from, if I have answered your question.
Yeah, and I would like to follow up with one more, because I think bring up the issue of writers, because I think that's what is everything, even here. Writers are gold, you know. So I don't know if that much we appreciate that kind of perception of writers, but I want to ask you as a producer, when you're producing, how do you identify, and you know how it's fragmented here? I mean, in Kenya, the industry, how do you identify good writers? If you really want to know who's writing and who's a really good writer, how?
I think one of the things that I do as a producer, and I think I'm privileged because I'm privy to writers because I'm an actor. So I'm able to see, I can tell good stories. So I'm able to see, I'm always, when I'm watching something, I'm always like, okay, so who was the writer? Can I be able to reach them? Or I go to a theater production and I see who the writer was. If I actually liked the performance or the script or the story, and I'd be like, oh, can I? And so I try to start conversations with them. I'm very particular when it comes to writers. They are gold. However, they can do you dirty. So you really have to choose who your writer is, and someone who can actually understand you as a producer, understand your director, understand the kind of story that you want. It's one thing to have one story in your head. Now, because I'm unlike Biko, I'm not able to put it down on paper and say, so this will be the plot. This will be the synopsis. This is what the story looks like. This is the protagonist. This is the antagonist. I'm probably not able to do that. But to get someone who understands exactly what you're trying to say, and for them to download everything that is in your heart and in your mind, is very difficult. However, I have found one or two who I can say that I am able to work with them. One I found in a theater company. I would watch their shows. So I wanted to watch their shows that they have staged, just to be sure that you're a good writer. You know, you could have one good story, but that doesn't make you a very good writer. But their track record kept, their stories kept improving and becoming even better. And I was like, oh, this is someone I could work with, right? And then we do share ideas with Biko. Once in a while, we'll be discussing. So I saw this writer. What do you know about them? Do you have any background on them? So do you think they can? No, this one is someone who writes about, they write dark stories. You can't take that one for this comedy. This one is known for comedy. So you have to identify their strengths. So you don't just pick any writer for your project. You do your due diligence. Then if you're able to reach them and you come into a good agreement, then you can proceed. You can proceed to do your project. But that's the first thing I do. I do my due diligence. I identify them from projects. I watch a lot of Kenyan films. I watch a lot of, and I'm actually looking to do a collaboration with a writer from Uganda. I've seen their work and I'm like, I'm gonna reach out to this person. And lucky for us, we have our social media pages. We have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have a lot of social media platforms, and so you're able to easily connect with someone. Even LinkedIn, you're able to easily connect with someone and tell them, you know what, I'm a film producer, would you be open to a collaboration? And that's how you get your writers. But yeah, writers are truly a treasure. They are gold.
Yeah, the thing is how to find them in the Kenyan context and find and keep discovering new ones, because I think we've not even scratched the surface yet. Biko, I'd like to talk about that.
On writers, yeah. Well, first of all, writing is a very difficult job, and you have to do it to really understand that it's a very difficult job. And even further, if you find a proper writer, it's like there's a mathematical formula to it. There's how this should be introduced here so that this makes sense, etc, etc. And it's not until recently when I was able to run into a very good writer myself, who I was discussing Naomi Mburu with. And I was telling Naomi, finally, I think I found somebody who I can trust with my stories and give them these stories and they can write these stories. So I think most of finding a good writer is difficult because it's not only a job of passion. You also have to, if you look at the Hollywood films, look at the Nollywood films, let me just say, study other industries, more so the Hollywood film, which is the best setter. They always have like this formula to it that if you follow that formula, then it becomes easy for you to be recognizable, to win awards, to blah, 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 and all that. So you can't just write films. But then again, you find that other people's formulas always don't work for us so well because we have we are of a different industry. But it still pays for you to be able to understand the most popular formulas and then customize them to your own stories, to your own environment, to your own audiences, etc, etc. And so that's what I came across through this writer recently. And yeah, just concurring that it's not easy to find a good writer who captures the spirit of the story, the flow of the story, the tempo of the story, that who keeps people on the edge to want to watch this film of yours. And I think it's an ailment that we have been in at the Siombaina, you being from our country, Kenyan film industry, you understand. And I think that's why you brought up that question. It has been very difficult. Technically, I can say we are advanced. Technically, we have very good technical. In fact, that's one of the things in the film industry that we export, our technical expertise. We've had people that go shoot movies in Nigeria, videos in Nigeria, etc, etc. We export our actors a lot. There are those that have gone out, but rarely have we exported our writers. Rarely.
Yeah, I think I still want to dispute that because I feel like we've not seen enough because we don't have places to see them, in action. We've not tested them, So I think there is probably something you need to discover by finding how to give them opportunities to test these guys, people who can do it.
Yeah. I agree with you, but remember, a DOP, a cinematographer, has been picked out of probably a poorly written story to go shoot a story in Nigeria because his cinematography stood out. Okay, the story didn't, but the cinematography did. Probably the actors tried to save that script, as you may say, or the directors tried to do it justice to save the story. So the directors are picked. We've had directors who shoot in South Africa, Kenyan directors in South Africa, etc, etc. but rarely have we had writers. We've exported actors. We know Lupita. When we were just speaking, you introduced Lupita. You said Eddie Gadegi, okay? And all these others, but writing. So we still have a lot of work to do there. And not that we have bad writers. We have very, very good writers around here. There's just something that needs to be customized to the Kenyan way of things and the global connect, to give that global connect for us to start exporting writing, our writers. That's all I'm saying. It's not that they're not there. Yes, there are. It's disputable, it's discussable, but rarely do we export writers. So finding a good writer, we will. I know with these discussions, somebody else will come up with an angle and say, hey, look this way, and maybe we'll be able to find. I'll be very happy. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what
Let me just add on to say, Biko, the only writers that we have probably exported was the African folk tales that Netflix did just recently. I think it was they did a mentorship training thing just this year and last year. And we exported, I think, 2 or 3 writers. Yeah, that's the only time that I've seen writers on a let me say continental scale, not even a global scale. However, we do have our technical team. In fact, we export them to South Africa. You will see them. We even had a team do Queen of Katwe, the film that Lupita was on. And they shot it in Uganda. So we had our technical team fly to Uganda to shoot that. So all we're saying is that our writers, maybe because we've not been exposed to many, we can't see, we really can't see them. We only know just but a few, but our technical team is really exposed. We have many people doing everything everywhere.
I can add on to that discussion. I think it's more of because we've done a lot of service, and Kenya has been known for servicing films. That's why probably you are doing better in technical, but production, meaning going to your writers and doing that writing and creating stories, because you've not done much of that to that extent. So you've not practiced that. So you can't really tell. So it's not like I still feel it's there, just that it needs to be probably put a bit of effort towards that direction.
Yeah, and I believe I agree with you. I agree that it is there, because if it wasn't there, then we wouldn't be making films. You know, I just say the bar has to be raised a little bit. And if you look at Country Queen, I think Country Queen was one of the probably what I would say, we had writers do something to in an international scale that's really reputable, and I could say that could be exported. Because if Country Queen was written entirely by Kenyans, but supervised by Germans, again, supervised by Germans. So I think we need more of those skill exchanges like that to raise the bar of writing. And as far as their visibility goes, then it goes to, you know, people like you that are working in distribution, you know, in impact producing. I think that's impact producing, if I'm not wrong. What Joseph and Easter, you guys are getting into is impact producing. After film is done, then it needs to really be seen, and writers be invited to also speak about their processes. Because what I've realized also in filmmaking, there are models, and Kenya is very heavy on the author model, and the author model puts focus on the director. Okay, does not put focus on the writers. So maybe panels like this also, writers also need to be invited, you know, to give opinion, to speak about their work. So you should also do more of writers, and put through collaborations with our writers so that their work can go. Because writing is a very passive form of art, and it comes at the very beginning of filmmaking. And usually most of the time, after we are done with the writers and they get paid, we most of the time don't really need them, because the film has already been done, and the film is getting done in 6 or so months. So by the time the film is done, everybody is remembering the actor and the director and the producer, and does not remember the writer. So after this, so we ask, so who wrote the film? The writer is here. So I think also there's that aspect of the writer being forgotten, because the process takes long, and by the time we're getting to panels like this, the writer is just somebody else somewhere, or is doing another project, and even does not have a problem because of their introvert nature of doing things. Maybe I could be wrong, I'm just saying.
No, you're
Joe,
right, because in fact, for the film that we're about to release, it's called Act of Love. We really have to remind ourselves, okay, our writer is really, she's in fact, she's the one who created the story and she's a writer. You really have to remember to plug her in. Because you see, when you're producing, you're thinking about distributing, you're thinking about the money, you're thinking about the accounts, you're thinking about everything, marketing. By the time you remember. So I think it's for us as producers and directors to always remember, you did not do this alone. You plug in your writer, plug in this writer. When you go for interviews, don't go alone. Us, we're lucky now because our creator is still our director. But like if for example, we had our writer and they're not here, you would question us. You'd ask us, so who's your writer? Why are they not here? You know? So I think it's to always remember please plug the writers. I think that's one of the ways we'll have our writers visible to the world.
Joe, do you want to add something there? Because I know, maybe we're exposing how we do our, films, and perhaps that's why sometimes they're not getting where they should be, because writers are top notch here. They're the people who are searched for the most.
Well, it's a curious position to be in, because at the same time, the films that are being produced are going to Netflix, and they're being seen in Netflix in Kenya, and so it's sort of like in one regard it's being seen, but not having a cultural footprint the same way that a lot of other films are being exposed to through a more traditional film festival route. And I was just curious to know if there was, why on one hand are films being produced and seen online, but at the same time, the recognition is sort of being left out. And I sort of feel like there is sort of a strange, but that's another conversation, I think. I was curious also if Naomi and Nico, if you had any questions for us, if you were curious about anything that more specifically, if there was anything that you were curious to ask.
Sorry, I think I'm on. Yeah, sure. For me, it would be in terms of distribution, and I'd go to Easter and say, you've been to our market, you've seen the kinds of job. What is it at the level that which you're operating in? What is it that the masses out there are hungry for, and how could we then go about it apart from obvious collaboration, because collaboration would then be the only way that we get there? But what is it that people want to see from where you're sitting, not at the world, like people in nation, no, from where you're sitting? What is it that people would want to see from us?
I mean, first, in fact, it's just because time is running. It's been a very interesting conversation, and we had promised everybody 1 hour. But I would even start by asking you guys, how do you pitch to streamers? Because for me, that's why I see, and this is why I kept saying, we need to do this and to show people there's variety of places you can take your content. And I think maybe I would want to hear from you what's the experience and how do you do that, and how do you get to these guys?
Oh, okay, Naomi.
Yeah, I think I'm going to speak on that, how to pitch. So one of the...
Or how to get your ideas to these platforms, yeah.
How to get your ideas to these platforms. So let me say, first, you have to be sure that your idea it makes sense. You have to be sure that the story makes sense. You don't just go pitch something that you know for sure they will tell you no straight to your face. You have to believe in your idea, believe in yourself. But I think one of the things that fails us mostly as filmmakers in Kenya is that we really don't learn the business side of film. We really want to create good stories and tell good stories, and that's brilliant. But there's a place for business and learning your negotiation skills, intrapersonal skills. How do you talk to people? How do I come to Joe and tell him, okay, so you're a curator, I have a film, could you look at it? Do you think it's something that you can actually now work towards helping me find festivals or platforms that I can actually distribute this film to? I think we don't really dwell on that. as filmmakers. One of the things, I have a mentor, his name is Tendeka Matatu. He's a film producer as well. He used to be based in London for a while. Then he left. Now he's in charge of Netflix acquisitions. And one of the things he was teaching us is pitching to investors, pitching to distributors, pitching to everyone, because that's the job of a producer, together with their director. Majorly, the producer carries the pitch. Majorly, the producer would be the one to look for platforms where they will distribute this film. And when it gets into conversation now, then different platforms with different requirements. So you first check, do I meet these requirements? Does this film meet these requirements? Then if it does, how do I proceed? Do I initiate a conversation? Do I initiate a conversation online? What do I do? I think it's basically, what I'm trying to say is, I think it's basically per platform with its different requirements. That's where you begin. Then you have to be very sure that your story is good. Let's say, for example, Netflix. I'm pretty sure they do have criteria as per which they choose their films. The cinematography has to be good. The sound has to be great. The story has to be good. They really check those. There's those things that they check. And when you pitch now, do you know your business side? Are you a person who will just go and they ask you, so okay, how much are you going to sell this film for, and how long? What's our buyout time? And you probably don't even know what buyout means, you know. So you really have to be someone who's very on that front, very knowledgeable about the business side of film, because you cannot sell when you don't know the business side of film. You will sell your film and you will not break even, or you will not make any returns, right? So you have to learn the business side. You have to learn interpersonal skills, how to speak to people. You don't just go and tell them, I have a film, take it. No, there's a way that people discuss business, you know. If you're a business person, you will go and tell them, so I have this product, it's amazing. Can you do a pitch in less than 5 minutes, an elevator pitch? Can you tell them, I have this story, it's amazing, I think it will be great for your platform? And then they'd be like, okay, you have my ear. So tell me what this film is all about. Can you be able to do that? Are you able to pitch? Issa, I see that you have, it's sort of like you have a question.
No, I've gotten what you're saying clearly. And maybe I'll try to answer this, and also what Biko was asking.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, and I'm giving an example of where I am with the school, what I'm seeing, because the courses people are doing production and in animations and films and whatever. They actually do short films, and then they take them to festivals. And it's a question I've asked previous, even people I've interviewed from Kenya. Do you people actually take your work, even if it's short film? That's even why this initiative, I'm saying, bring your short films, let's see. Do you take them to the festivals of the world, just trying them out? I know it's expensive, but do you try? Because this is why you find all these people who are able to buy all of this, and different people.
Yes, Esther, we do. So what I learned when I was doing Napunyi, as Biko said, it was my first ever film to.
I think she's stuck.
You can be talking, maybe.
Yeah. Sorry, until now we come back. Yeah, the reason why I asked that question, because I believe with my experience, making films here, why I also believe that we've had those difficulties is we've not had enough knowledge transfer, even within practitioners and students. That exchange has not been strong in the past. But as I made films, I came to realize also that distribution should inform creation. Distribution should come in and advise the creation process. So when I ask, what is it that people want from your side, then maybe I'd be able to incorporate you into the ideas that I'm making and say, oh, I have something like that. Would you look at it and then advise from your angle? What culture could we incorporate here so that when we are going to discuss distribution and regions, like we have South Asia in mind, because we've incorporated a South Asia culture, because Easter is there, Joseph is there. Joseph has studied that market and knows this flies, this does not fly. So maybe you could, it could be a word. It could be a simple word. It could be a simple gesture. It could be a sport, a simple sport or something like that. and that would make the audiences over there relate to that more. So I just asked that because right now I'm at that stage where for me, distribution informs my way of creation so much. I don't just write a film today, go find out people tomorrow, and then we've distributed, praying and hoping that it will do well. No, it has to be factual. It has to be well researched. I don't mind taking a year, two, just creating a project that will fly in all these regions, so that when I'm going to negotiate with Netflix, if it's North America, it's North America and Brazil and whatever else, and Africa too. If it's worldwide, then we have something that, you know, the story is on a global scale because it was informed well by Easter or Joseph, who's going to distribute it. So yeah, that's why I asked.
No, it's a valid question. Maybe Joe would like to comment a bit, and then Naomi can take it, go back to her idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, Biko, I think because I think that the thing that's really important to remember here, that transcends any kind of community of people wherever you are in the world, is that you're making films essentially that only you could make. So it seems like a bit of an oxymoron, because you're trying to sell, for the lack of a better word, a product to an international market for it to have universal success. And you can very easily fall into a sort of formula mindset of, well, if you tell me what you want, then I can make it to the specifications that you want it to be. And I understand exactly what you're saying, because there is a sort of, well, you know, just let us know what you want, because we've got the technical side, we've got, you know, the writers, we've got the cast, we've got the crew. So if we can just tailor it in some way, then we will be able to more successfully have it marketed for your audiences for international. And I get that. That is a very tempting thing to do, but it might not always be the best thing to do, simply because then you are sort of making films not for yourself, but for other people that you, and there's no guarantee that those films will be seen anyway. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I would always go back to trying to remind filmmakers to make films that only you could make. Because when you're looking at things from a sort of outsider perspective, I'm always looking for films, not just, you know, if it's films from the African continent, or if it's films from Italy or Brazil or Thailand or Australia, you're looking for filmmakers that have a unique perspective on whatever story they are telling. And it has almost nothing to do with technical competence. It has everything to do with cinema. And I mean that quite literally. It's stories that only cinema could tell. You know, they're not books. It's not a song. It's cinema. You're using everything that art form can do for you. You say, and I love everything you guys have been talking about today. It's so specific to your language, to your culture. I think you should absolutely hold on to that. But what you also need to think about is, how can we use cinema to do something that no one else is doing? And I mean, sometimes as well, go against the grain, go against the convention, and you might find that your film is becoming more distinguishable. Because really what you need to be is distinguished filmmakers. And by that, I mean, experiment. If there's, let's say, leave the camera rolling for an extra 2 minutes and see what you find. And it might be a bit strange, and people in your, you know, maybe the people in your community might say, oh, we're not really understanding that. Why are you doing that? But if you feel it as an artist, as a visionary auteur, filmmaker, that we are actually going to lead, we're going to have a tracking shot, go through a street, and we're going to land on a story that is invisible, that is not told. And we're going to use that device of the tracking shot to find someone else and maybe look at that point of view and discover something that we didn't get before. That is cinema. That is doing something quite original there. So you're now thinking of how, you know, Biko and Naomi, how you are using the form to be more distinguished. And that will then elevate your work above the competition, and outsider eyes will say, this is fresh, this is new, this is something I need to program this, you know. So that's what I mean, you know.
Yeah, I think Joseph should watch my films then. Yeah. Joseph should really watch my films.
So I
That's
think
great. Yeah.
the idea he's trying to say, just be yourself, and just do the best you can with just be unique to yourself. You don't want to copy somebody else. But of course, what you're talking about is relatable. You can communicate what you're saying. And that's it, and just do the best that you can. Naomi, you had not finished your thought process before you got cut off.
I'm so sorry. Is that I'm such a scatterbrain. I was talking about pitching and distribution, right? And I was saying, I just recently, when I was doing Napunya, I was just blindly applying to festivals and using a ton of money. But as I grew as a producer, I realized there's curators like Joe, right? Who can guide you and hold your hand. They probably know more festivals, know better platforms. And even though you could have an idea of the platforms that you could distribute your film on, but I just recently now started to realize the role of film curators, festival curators, distributors who are really going to push for you. It might be a lot more expensive than your normal budget of self-distribution. I think in Kenya, we have a lot of people distributing for themselves. We really never used to pay a lot of attention to marketing and distribution, especially post-production. I mean, it would be like, if I have my production budget, pre-production and production budget, I'm good to go. But I've come to realize that even so, as I study the films that have really made it globally, I see that their marketing and distribution budget is almost similar to their production budget. And so I was so fascinated because I didn't know that. And so when I learned that, I was like, I think I'm going to have to rethink my strategy because Napunyi took a while for me to distribute. And I can say only God helped me because we are on several platforms. We just got accepted into and this is breaking news to even Biko himself. We just got accepted into a VOD platform called Accelerate TV on it's a Nigerian platform, and that's 3-4 years later, Biko. It's taken us a while, and but now that I know I can approach Joe as a curator, I can approach Kimberly Browning as a curator, I can approach this and this with a nice budget set aside, of course, then I'm able to distribute my film. I think we don't do our due diligence to distribute the films, but I think it's possible to do it. I think it's possible to do your due diligence and distribute your film.
Sorry, I'll just quickly add, because I'm also seeing time is, I can tell you for a fact that being in the film industry for quite some time around here, distribution is only catching up now. Is when you can meet a distributor. Otherwise, when I was making my first feature film, I didn't know how a distributor looks like. The only distributor I knew about was for soft drinks, Coca-Cola, beer, and all that. Those are the distributors. And also, when somebody told me for the first time, you need to see a distributor, it was only a word in the dictionary, even when I was going through film school, So around here, the industry was so small. Some professions have not yet, like publicists. I've not met a publicist. Maybe there are people that are trying to do it, but I've not met a successful publicist for even just actors, film agents and things like that. So we also need to understand that the Kenyan film industry is still very tiny. It hasn't really blown out the tentacles to form individual careers in things like distribution and all that, It's, as I said, it's only recently that I've met a distributor. It's only now that we get to understand their curators, impact producing, that impact producing is a thing. You finish producing your film, and then an impact producer takes it from there. Other than that, I've met a director, I've met a producer, I've met an actor, I have met an editor. We've met all these people, but a whole lot other people that have not been met. And it's just the nature of industry here. So it's good, and maybe just to conclude that even platforms like this then, open our scope to even other kind of professions within film industry that you can deal with, because film is the only profession that absorbs all other professions: lawyers, doctors, stunt people, firemen, etc., everything.
Musicians.
musicians, etc., etc. So this is a really great platform, what Joseph and Easter you're doing, just to help even us as filmmakers to have different discussions outside of just creating and writing films. Yeah.
I think that is what I loved most when I came here, the fact that people talk about what they do, and I didn't find much of that in Kenya. Just thought was, is not helping us as much, because the more you broaden your mind, you're able to learn and improve also what you do. So I hope this we can keep at it. And because I know time has run out, I'll just give you 2 things to think about and also preempt what we'll be doing in the next few sessions. Something that is trending here is gaming. I don't know if you guys are aware, but Kenya is really good in this. It's coming up very well. And in the world also, filmmaking, gaming is also considered as part of this. So when you talk about as a producer a project, you think about a project that can carry it, not just film, it can be a game, it can be animation. I can refer you to The Last of Us. You can go and look at it, research about it. It's a show on HBO, one of these streamers. It was a game, but now it's and I think there's also, others, is it Super Mario I've also seen. So there are games and then they come into film. So when you think about your concept, start thinking and reaching out to also gaming people in Kenya, they are there. At least I know the IT sector is very vibrant. So you'll find people you can start collaborating on. These gaming engines that are being used to make the games is a thing. There's something that's called, virtual production as well. It's being used in the filmmaking process. Something that, to start thinking about. These are trending topics. And of course, we also have this beast is being called artificial intelligence, which I'm sure you already know about. So I think just because of time, and it's been a lovely discussion, I think, we can have the last round of comments and then we can close and hope to see you soon again. Joe, can we start with you, or who do we start with to give our last comments as we close?
My last comments would be very, very generic, I'm afraid. It would just be to remember that cinema is to give room for everybody to participate. And there's a reason why soap operas and sort of that kind of like short form TV stays very domestic. And that's because those stories and that type of framing device is very restrictive creatively. And cinema is about expanding that and opening it up to experimentation and to a complete new kind of language. So don't be afraid to just sort of try something a bit different, give some parts of that story where you can really kind of be more cinematic, and you might surprise yourself, you might develop a new style. And so just sort of go be, just be bold, be experimental. And that is just advice that I would give, really. And thank you, by the way, Naomi, Biko. It is a pleasure to actually have this conversation with you. You're so much more articulate than I am. I'm really envious of that.
Biko.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Joseph and Easter, for putting this together, and more specifically Easter for, just forwarding conversations about our country from far away from home. I know you as one of the most hardworking women, strong head, people that when they really go at it, they really go at it. So I know these conversations will keep up, and we'll do everything to support this conversation up.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you
long as
much.
you all support me.
Yeah, definitely. To Joseph, thank you so much for your scope and your perspective of things, just an alternative way of looking things. And Easter, I'll be forwarding you some of my trailers, because whatever Joseph is speaking about, he's speaking about my films. I'm a very unorthodox filmmaker. In fact, very unorthodox filmmaker. But many a times my films have failed to take off because they just look like they're ahead of their time. Nobody's ready to accept these ideas. So it was a pleasure being here. And also to Naomi for being a great producer, always keeping the conversation up and sparing your time. I know you're a very, very busy lady, just sparing your time to be here. Thank you so much. And to everybody who's attended this live, that's all the kind of support that we need for you to be here, listen to our stories. And lastly, Easter, I'll still want this from you. What are the possibilities of co-production? Because that's the next level game that we are looking at here. Possibilities of co-production. You guys will not get anything to curate if we don't produce films. So tuangalie hiyo round. Thank you.
That one we are at it, and this is why we are doing this business course, that we know how to do these deals and you don't get small money, because that's a part of our problem in terms of financing. Naomi?
Yes.
I think Easter, you're my type. You're my type. You're my type. You're speaking money, and I love that. I think it's just to say thank you. I enjoyed this conversation. I wished or hoped for more time, but we're gonna be back, and we will be back with bigger things and better things for sure. Joe, it's very nice to meet you. You're the second curator I have met as a producer. The first one I met a month ago. You're the second person, and so let me say you're at a very good place. You're very well placed to help us sell films and make money while at it. I'm open to collaborations as well. I'm open to also teaching and learning production and the little that I know, and sharing the little information. I think, Esther, you can share a lot more information than I can right now. But yeah, I'm open to collaborations as well. And to everybody that has joined us today, thank you so much for supporting us. Really, you being here is one of the reasons why we do what we do. We love telling stories, and we love that you hear the stories, that you want to hear the stories. And Biko, thank you so much for always being in my corner, for always supporting me. And yes, I do support your unorthodox telling of stories. I understand your stories. I love your stories, and I can't wait to work on another film apart from Napuni as well with you. I've been trying to get Biko to tell me a story. One story. There's a story that I really wanted, but I think she's gotten another sweetheart producer to do that for him. But I will get back on his good graces now that I have said that in front of everybody. I will get back to your good graces, and you will tell that story to me, and we will produce it, and we will do it, and it will be a brilliant film. But really, thank you so much for having me. I have really enjoyed my time.
Thank you so much, Joe, and everybody else. And we'll see you in the next 2 weeks. We'll have a different, I think we'll change a little bit more the programming, maybe probably get a few gamers from Kenya and see. I probably also want to host others, from other countries, that we can mix ourselves, because that's part of our problems. We are not supposed to be in that small corner of the world. We're supposed to be mixing with others and talking to others. And that's how co-productions and collaborations begin. So we'll keep changing. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.